my name is Gudrun from GA Designs. Welcome to our live quilting show, Tipsy Tuesday on a Monday. Hi everybody, thank you for being with us here on a Monday. We are a day early. We are so excited to have you here, whether you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook. Mr. HP is, of course, running the show. We are back in Minnesota. We're in Studio A. Yeah. And happy to be here. Thank you for being here, and say hi in the comments. Make sure to stick around to the end of the show. I have a lot of stuff to do today. So much to share with you. I'm so excited about it. But if you are new around here, make sure you subscribe to our channel or like our page on Facebook so you never miss a show. Yes, it's packed today. On today's show, I'll be taking you through part 3 of our strip along that we have been doing for the past couple of weeks, the Strips and Salsa strip along. I'll be giving you a free tutorial for a great hanging towel, kitchen towel, and you'll get to see a reveal of our subscription club for the month of April. Gudrun's Bundle Club, our quarterly subscription, was shipped out last week, and last week, a week from today, and I'm so excited to share that with you today. So, also some great fabric. So, I think we just gotta get it going. Let's start with
get it going.
Let's start with announcing our winner from last week, though. I asked you a giveaway question: how do you use your fabric scraps? Our winner is, drum roll please, sir, Marla Hanks.
Hey, Marla.
Congratulations, Marla. Her answer: I love making crumb blocks with my scraps, but because of you and Pat Sloan, I cut mine into 2.5-inch squares, 1.5 and 2.5-inch strips. The strip sizes are great for making pot holders and such. Great, I love that. Thank you, Marla. Now make sure to send us an email to help@quiltdesigns.com to claim your prize, and you'll get your gift card in an email. Love that. I hope everybody had a good weekend, got some good sewing in. Like I said, we're in Minnesota, and tomorrow we'll be driving to Chicago to set up our booth for the H&H trade show. The show starts on Wednesday and runs through Friday, so this is trade only, wholesale only, but we're excited to see our colleagues and set up our booth. So road trip. Yes, I did get some road snacks. Got some snacks today. Some of your favorites.
Yay.
Don't worry. Okay, so since we have so much to do, I think we just got to dive in, don't we?
Dive in.
I mentioned this on Friday that we got some great new toweling in, and I told you a year ago I did a really quick tutorial on how to make a hanging kitchen towel that wraps around your towel bar or your handle on a drawer, on an oven, or whatever you want, where you want to hang it. And I did this like last year on a Friday, and it was really quick, and it is the most requested tutorial, and everybody's asking us where to find that. So I decided, let's shoot it again, and so it will be in a place where everybody can find it. So let's check out my tip of the day. What you need to make this project is some toweling. I'm using an 18-inch wide toweling that is hemmed on 2 sides. And then you need about a fat eighth of a fabric, or a 1/4 yard of a fabric. You need to cut a 7x15 rectangle and a 7x7 square. You can have these from 2 different fabrics or the same fabrics as I do here. So first off, you want to cut a long enough piece off the toweling that you want for your towel, and it can be any length depending on how long you want your towel to be from the hanger. And so I have done that, and mine measures about 15 inches. So the first thing you want to do obviously is hem the bottom side of your toweling. So I just double rolled the hem and hemmed it with my machine. And then I went ahead and pleated it. You can either pleat it any way you want to. I kind of went with the lines and the design on the toweling, or you can also gather it. What you want is up here to be about 6 inches. So I just pleated it until it was about that size, and then I just stitched it on the top. You can, if you want to, use some clips to hold this together here at the bottom. Either way, if you pressed it nicely, it's going to stay together. So that's the first thing you want to do. So for the other pieces, your 7-inch square, what you want to do is you want to press it in half, make a little crease, and then press each raw edge towards the center. So the raw edges are together in the center, and then we're going to fold it one more time, enclosing those raw edges. And what you want to do is stitch, top stitch on both the top and the bottom. So you'll have a piece that looks like this. So this is going to be your band that your towel loops into. So that is step 1. The next step is taking your 15-inch by 7, and you want to fold that in half and make a little crease if you want to. You want to go ahead and stick that strap or that piece that you just made and stick it right to that fold. So it's all the way to the fold. Bring these raw edges together. And what you want to do is just stitch down so that you're securing that band inside. So just stitch down to the edge of it to about here. So I have done that over here. So you'll see that the band is inside here like this, but we're going to enclose it this way. So now it's time to sew it to the toweling. So we take our toweling and we want to obviously have right sides together. So I'm going to place my towel in here. What you want this to be about 6 inches. So you'll have about a 1/2 inch or at least a 1/4 inch. I like to have a little bit more than that on each side. So you just lay the raw edges together here. If you want to, if it's raveling a lot, you can also just zigzag the edges here. But you want to just lay it inside here, aligning the raw edges. And then what we're going to do is roll the towel up so it's enclosed in here, and then bring this raw edge even with the other ones. And we're just going to clip this here together. And I always start with sewing this side. So you want to take this to your sewing machine. Remember, you have to have space on each side where there's no toweling inside it. And I'm going to stitch across here to secure it. So then when I have this secured, I can push one side of the toweling a little bit further aside, and then I can finish this seam all the way down here on one side. On the other side, I want to stitch up, but leave an opening of at least about 2.5 inches so I can turn this. So I've actually prepared that piece right here. So I have my piece sewn across the toweling side, and then one side all the way, and then I have a little opening here. So now I'm going to go in here and just pull my towel out, and I see that I have left this a little tight, but that's okay. So there we have it. And what I'm going to do is take this to my iron a little bit and press the edges, and the opening raw edges, I'm just going to press them, fold it in so they're even with the other sides. And I'll be right back. So there we are. And now the last step, I want to top stitch. So I want to top stitch down the side, across here, and up this way. And then I want to kind of fold this down and make a top stitch along the top on the inside of the band. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to finish off our towel. So here it is. I have top stitched. And now to put it over the towel bar, make sure you have the fold, the front side of the toweling. So I call it the back side where the hem is to the back. So if this is the front side of the toweling, the strap needs to go towards the back. So what you do is you wrap this over the bar. If we imagine ourselves that we have a bar, I'm going to use my tool here. So we have a bar here, we wrap this around the bar, and then we bring this through and pull it down, and it will hang nicely on any towel bar like this. Perfect for gifting or using yourself. So there it is, a simple hanging kitchen towel. It's nice. It's not going to be, you know, falling off that little bar. And like the biggest question after we made this was that people struggled with how to put it on the bar. They were just going back and forth. So I want to just do this again for you guys because I have now a little hanger. So I'm going to put this here and have you on the overhead. So if this is the bar you're going to hang something on, you have the front of the towel, and you want to make sure that you flip that little strap to the back. And then so easily you go in front of the bar, fold this over the bar, and then it's easy to pull it through. Okay? I think I had to give a tutorial. Everybody that I gifted this last year, I had to give a little tutorial on how to hang it. So there it is. And so you can make this shorter, longer, however long you want it. And I think this is not just for the kitchen. I think this will be really cute in a bathroom as well. So there it is. Any questions? Yeah, you could totally embroider on the toweling. That is, of course, very easy to do. You can you can embroider on the strap messages or personalize it. Do some, you know, monograms or something like that. And you can have a different fabric for the strap than the top. It's perfect to use up some scraps or just a fat eighth of fabric somewhere around there. Just some fun scraps.
So clever.
Oh, thank you.
Can you make a few of those for our house?
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, you can. Now you know how to do it.
Bye.
Yes. Well, that was only our first video today because we are, of course, in the middle of our Strips and Salsa strip along. It's been really fun to see your progress and so much fun to see how many of you started and could not stop and finished your quilt and are now starting a second one or a third one. So that's what's really always rewarding when you start everybody on a project and then it's just so fun that they want to make more. So that's just a beautiful thing to hear from a designer. So now it is time for our part 3. So we got our rows together last time, finished our blocks and got our rows together. So now it's time to trim them up and then just add the sashing and borders to get our quilt top finished. So let's take a look at part 3 of our Strips and Salsa strip along. Welcome to our strip along part 3. Now, as I said, your homework for last step was getting all of your rows of blocks together, depending on how many rows your layout is going to have and your style that you wanted to make. And so now we're going to do our trimming to start with. I love to use my XL ruler for this, and this is one of the reasons why when I designed the ruler to have these dotted lines on the 3 sides of the ruler. So what they are, the first dotted line is a 1/4 inch from the edge, the second one is a 1/2 inch, and then you have a third one on the sides, that's 3/4. You'll just have the 2 here on the top. But I love this for doing things like this. So what we want to do now with a block is trim the excess background fabric to exactly 1/4 inch from the corner, so that when we sew our sashings and borders on, you're not cutting off any of your corners. It's nice and even. It's such a good idea to oversize your setting triangles like this, and then you can really trim it to a good size. So what I like to do on my corner first is I align that first dotted line here so it's hitting the corners or just off of them. Of course, we can't always hit each one exactly, but as close as we can get is always a great idea. It's better to be a little off of it than right on it, because we're using the same fabric as the background. So even though the point doesn't come exactly to the seam, it really doesn't matter because it's all going to float together. So again, try to be off the corner with a line versus on it. It's always better to have a little more wiggle room. So I'm looking at it here, and then I want to get that corner here. I want to get that 90-degree corner. So I have my point here on this side, and so I can do 2 cuts. I can do this side. Anytime I'm cutting on the edge of a ruler, I like to just go a little bit slower to make sure that I'm not going to go off anywhere. So as you can see, sometimes you'll get a trim and sometimes there's not much, and that's okay. So now go ahead and trim all of your rows. So you just move it down, keep moving it down and trimming that side. So once you have that done on all 4, you should have similar length rows. However, history tells us that it doesn't always happen. So what I want you to do after you have everything trimmed is I want you to measure each of your rows. So measure the length just down the center and see if you come up with the same measurement. If you don't come up with the same measurement, find the median. So that means if one is 60 inches, the next one is 59, the median would be 59.5. So once you have that measurement, we are gonna get our sashing ready. And so we have our 2.5-inch strips from the background fabric. I like to get the best use of my fabric, especially when we're doing so many sashings or in between, like, the row sashings or borders. I like to piece them into one long strip, and you can do this 2 ways. Of course, you've heard of where you should always, or there are people that say you should always diagonally piece your borders. It's not necessarily an always thing. For me, it really matters what kind of fabric I'm using, because if you're doing wider borders than this, sometimes you can really save some fabric if you just piece your borders on the straight. So this fabric being so subtle, it really wouldn't matter if I just sew those strips together with a straight seam, because you're not gonna, it's not gonna scream at you when you see that seam in the quilt. It's really gonna blend in. But of course, you can always diagonally piece them, so that would be similar to how we do binding. You would sew diagonal across and then join all the strips with a diagonal seam. So go ahead and do either or. So I like to sew all of my strips into one long strip, and then based on how many rows of blocks you have in your quilt, I have 4 in mine. So that means I need, between the 4 rows, there are 3 strips that go between them, and then 1 on each end. So if you have 4 rows, it means that you need 5 strips that are that same length. So you would cut from your one long strip, you would cut 5 strips that are the median length of all your block rows. So then when you get ready to piece those to your rows, what I always do as well is I find the center of my long piece, make a little crease, I find the center of my row, and I pin the center, and then I pin the end, and then I add pins all along the way. So I like to add 1 strip to all the rows, and then you press that before you start joining all of the rows. It's harder to keep joining one by one by one. Start by sewing a sashing row on all of your block rows, press, and then start joining them in smaller pieces. So then put 2 and 2 together, press, and then put the 2 and 2 together and press until you have a bigger piece. So once you have those added to the side, to in between and on the sides, then you take your quilt and you measure it for the width of it. And again, from your long strip, cut 2 lengths to that measurement and add to the top and bottom of the quilt. And that is all you need to finish your strips in Salsa. Now we are going to have a part 4 about finishing. So your homework is to get your quilt top together, and then on next week's show, we are going to be talking about options for quilting it. So there it is, part 3. Yes, only 3 parts, and we're putting it all together. We're still going to do part 4 next week. We're going to give you some ideas on finishing it all the way, some quilting ideas. But any questions you have, make sure you post them in the comments. I saw some that popped up during the show, so I'll try and answer as many as I can. You see, I saw one. When you're sewing the sashing strips to your rows, do you sew with the strip on the top or on the bottom? There it is. Yes, Mary. So you can do either way because both of them are at the straighter grain, so you don't have to worry about that the actual row strip of blocks that does not have a bias edge. However, if you want to make sure you're not going over your corners, you can always pin that sashing strip onto your row of blocks and then sew from the back side. It doesn't matter, since we are measuring and cutting it to the same size, it's going to work out great. Do you put the binding at 2.5 strips instead of 2 1/4? Yes. So in this pattern, this was back in the day when I was cutting my binding wider. So this pattern has not been changed since it came out back in 2009, I believe, 9 or 10. And this was, yes. No, the long edges do not stretch. I'm hoping, I think you're talking about the long edges of the rows of blocks. It does not, because remember, we cut our triangles for those ends, so those sides, we cut a square and we cut them into quarters. So that long side of the triangle is going to be a straighter grain. So it's not going to stretch. So you're good. All good. All right, any other questions? How soon will the pattern be available for Billy? It will be in about a month or so. It's coming. It's coming.
What do you got behind you there?
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I got beautiful quilts behind me, but we got to play a little video first. So, okay. That's it. Yes.
I think.
And somebody said for all but the horizontal layout, they're really columns, not rows. I always call them vertical or horizontal rows because columns is not generic for all, is not universal. So, we don't talk about columns, for example, in Iceland. So we do horizontal or vertical rows of blocks. That's how I write my patterns, so that it's more generic. I know we always talk about columns here in the U.S. The same thing. Same thing. It's rows of blocks, whether they go horizontal or vertical in your quilt.
Sure, you're right.
Okay, it is time for Bundle Club reveal. So I'm very excited about this month. This is number, what is this number? 7, I believe. Yes, of Bundle Clubs. 6 or 7, I think. And always try and do something different. When I spotted this fabric line, I knew I wanted to do it for its uniqueness, richness, and of course, I love this designer. So let's take a look at my April selection for Goodies Bundle Club subscription. Hi, my name is Gudrun from GE Designs, and in this video I am thrilled to introduce you to our April 2024 selection for our subscription program, Goodies Bundle Club. For this month, I've chosen to feature fabric line by a dear friend, Sandy Gervais. The line is called Feed My Soul and is by Riley Blake Fabrics. Now, Sandy has been designing fabric for decades, and she boasts an extensive 25-year career as a fabric and quilt pattern designer with her company, Pieces from My Heart. Her fabrics are always whimsical yet current, and her eye for color is always amazing. I've used her fabrics for many years. Throughout the years, there have been different ones that I've fallen in love with and used in my quilts. Sandy first started out designing for Moda Fabrics, but since 2019, she's been working with Riley Blake Fabrics. When I saw Feed My Soul, the first thing that grabbed my attention was the color. It was unique and fresh, this combination of blues and greens, and just that hint of teal in the blues really freshens them up, combined with the olive and chartreuse in the greens. I chose to add a couple of basics to round out the bundle, so let's take a look at the fabrics. You will find the selection, the 12 pieces that are in your package, here listed from top to bottom. So let's take a look at them. We're starting here on the left side. So starting with a beautiful small print that is called Daisies in a Pear. I love that name for this color. It's nice and bright with that little bit of a green tint. The next one is called Flower Garden Light Pear. Also that same light chartreuse color with those deep olive and all of the blues and aquas and teals in the flowers. So beautiful tossed type of a fab print, even though it is directional. Once it's cut up, it really can be turned any which way in the print. This next fabric is actually a basic that I added in here. This is called Dreams and is by Lewis and Irene, one of our basics we carry in the store. I love that it has that in-between color between the lights and the darker olives. It has the olive in here to tie with the darker ones, and then the light colors to tie with the lighter ones. So it's the perfect bridge and fit in here very nicely. The next one is called Leaves Olive. Love that the leaves are lighter than the base color. And then the little flowers on the leaves are both have the blue, the dark navy, and the turquoise in there. And then the spots of white to lighten it all up. This one is called Tossed Floral. So the flowers are all in this off-white color and then outlined by a little bit of that chartreuse, and then so on this deeper olive background. A really nice one. You can see when you look at this further away, that light color in there really lightens up the value of the whole fabric. And then the last green here is called Flowers Olive. So this one is a directional one. I really love the modern feel of this. Having them all directional like this and have them all directed in the same direction. I love the uniqueness of having a dark navy flower bed, something we don't see often, so very unique. So going into the navies, we're starting with the leaves. So again, as one of my favorites in here, I love the turquoise leaves, and then we have both the olive and the chartreuse in the little buds on the leaves. Then we have the Flower Garden in the navy. So this is the smaller floral. Again, same as we have in the light. And I love this one again. It has a lot of action. It has a lot of colors. And if you look at it from afar, it's going to tie all of the colors together and be a great, great tie-in. This next one is our main floral. So this is our main floral in the navy color. Again, a lot of going on, a typical Sandy Gervais floral. You have lots of layers in here. You have the flowers on top, you have leaves underneath, and even below that, little flowers and accents to really make this fabric come alive. I love that it has all of the tones that we have in the rest of the fabrics in the line. And so it really is the perfect print to have both in your quilt and then perfect to use as borders. Then we have the toss floral in the navy. It's the same print as we have in the olive green. And so this one has more of the white, but just a hint of that turquoise. You probably don't see it just around the flowers. It's really beautiful and adds so much to it. Then we have a little plaid, and love that this is a diagonal plaid or on point. So this one is called Geo Plaid in the navy. It has a turquoise and off-white in it, so it creates a perfect texture and is a perfect addition to this bundle. We did have extra of this available to use for some bindings. And then last but not least, we have another basic that I added. It's called Grass Cloth Cottons, and it is a warm navy. And what you see in here, if you look closer, there's a little bit of teal in this, so it looks like grass cloth. It is, of course, just a printed cotton, but it has a little bit of that teal tying in with all the teals in the fabric, so a great kind of darkest value for the whole bundle. So let's take a look at my fabric pull. I chose some great 1 yards to add to this, and I'm just gonna do this according to how the fabrics are laid out. You will find the fabric pull right here. You can scan the QR code and we'll take you right to the page with all of these, and they are listed with links so you can easily add them to your collection. We're starting here on the darker blue end with a grunge in the Marion Berry Pie, a nice deep grunge that has a little bit of teal, so deep navy with a little bit of a teal undertone. Love that one. And then we have an Art Gallery Seedling in the Blueberry. A little bit deeper, has a little bit of teal as well. So this one is a great addition as well. A little bit lighter blue, Deco Stitch in the Indigo Sky. You have a little bit of a brighter tone to the blue if you wanted to pull out some of the more blue tones versus the teal. And then another medium blue, the Color Wash and the Textured Indigo. So it will tie in with some of the lighter tones in here. It's also a great bridge between the turquoises and the navies. For the greens, let's start on the lighter end with a Dimples Sprig color. Beautiful fresh color that fits in there perfectly because it has some of the dark to tie in with the darker colors. So does the Color Wash Textured Olive Oil. Has some of the darker greens in here, but really shines with those lighter chartreuse colors. We have the Thatched in Chartreuse, a great color that bridges the gap here. It could work nicely with this one, but also with the lighter tones. And then another Thatched in a darker color. This is Thatched Sprig, which is a perfect balance with the darker tones in here. Now I've added some turquoise because as you step away from these big prints, you will see that there is a pretty dominant turquoise and aqua feel to them. So I've added Chalk and Charcoal in the Capri, would be a great addition. And these could be used as focus prints, accents, or things like that, or just added to everything. Here we have a dry brush in the turquoise. And then I added a light blue because you will see a light blue in the florals. This one is Spectrostatic in the Baby Blue. Will work great with all of them. So then I had suggestions for backgrounds. We did some quilts with light backgrounds and also with gray backgrounds. So here's our Spotted Steel, which we used. We have our Canvas French Vanilla. And then the dry brush and the whipped cream would all be great choices for backgrounds or accents. Let's take a look at the quilts. So we made 4 quilts. We just couldn't stop. So first one we're going to take a look at is our Billy quilt. Billy is a brand new pattern that was a part of our Stripology Virtual Retreat. And this will be released in both paper and PDF format early June, late May. This one uses 10-inch squares, and for the lap size quilt, you will just cut 10-inch squares from the 12 prints. You will get 48 squares. So for each block, the idea is to pair 2 fabrics that contrast well with each other, which made this bundle just perfect, having greens on one side and always pairing that with the blue. So it was turned out to be a beautiful mix. For our backing, we used a fabric from the line that we have available in 3 yards and 1 yards. It is a little bit more turquoise. It's the main print in the color is called powder. So it's the same print as we have in the bundle, but in that lighter tone, which is beautiful on the back. For the binding, we used one of the basics out of the line, the grass cloth cottons, warm navy for the binding. The next quilt is Ingrid. Ingrid is found in the Stripology Mixology 3 book. The quilt we shown in the booklet is lap size, and the pattern calls for 5-inch squares and 2.5-inch strips from the same fabric. So it was perfect to use the leftovers from the Billy quilt. So we used as a background the spotted steel, which I showed you earlier in the fabric pull. That was a beautiful basic that really wasn't dark, wasn't too dark, wasn't too light, but just complemented these colors perfectly. That was our background. For the binding, we used the same color. We used that grass cloth cottons and warm navy for the binding, and for the backing, that same beautiful powder color for the backing. So that one is the same as we used for the Billy. Quilt number 3, we made 4 quilts. Quilt number 3 is Venus. So this Venus is a standalone 10-inch square pattern that has some layout options and size options. It can be made with assorted 10-inch squares or a single background option as well, what we did here. So we cut 10-inch squares from the bundle and then only used 24 of them and paired it with a beautiful canvas French vanilla, as I showed you before. And that way you can get a lot more out of your bundle. So that is the background for the Venus quilt. And then there are 2 fabrics that we use for borders. The inner border, we used the grass cloth cottons, the warm navy, a nice sharp dark navy border. And then the main floral was the main floral navy. So the same print that's in the bundle, we have this one available both in 1 yards and 3 yards. For the backing, we used another print that is from the line and not in the bundle. That is the leaves in the cream. A beautiful print that has more of that teal, turquoise, or turquoise leaves, and then a little bit of that green specks throughout. Perfect for to lighten up that backing. And then we used the green for the binding. So we used one of the prints from the line, but you can, of course, use also the dreams and the chartreuse would look great as well. And the last quilt we made was Nova, which is also a single pattern that uses 10-inch squares. So you could definitely do both Venus and Nova from the same bundle just by adding that background. And for this quilt, I chose to use a little bit lighter background, the dry brush and the whipped cream. So that is the background fabric paired with the 24 squares. For the narrow border in this one, we used the Feed My Soul leaves for the narrow border, but again, we could use any of the greens that we did in the fabric pull. So any of these would work great to get a similar effect for our inner border. And then for the wide border, we chose to try the light main print, the main floral in the powder, and that really sets off the light background and gives this quilt a much lighter feel than the Venus versus the Venus. Both great, of course. For the binding, we used another print from the bundle, that Geo Plaid. We do have that available also in 1 yards, so check that out for a little fun diagonal binding. And then we used the backing, the same, the Feed My Soul in the leaves to complete the Nova quilt. Now, I always love to share what pattern we use for quilting these beauties. So let's take a look at the Billy quilt first. This one, we used a beautiful, very geometric print or a design called Benet's herringbone which is made by Urban Elements. So fairly modern, very graphic, and it worked really nicely with the Billy quilt. For the Ingrid, we used a pattern by the Long Arm League called Together. Now this one has a little bit of a directional feel. Since we had such an amount of background, it really turned out nicely and gave it, again, a little bit of a modern touch. For the Venus quilt, we actually used a free pattern from Urban Elements. It is called Flower Power. So you'll see just very simple florals, something if you do enjoy free motion quilting, that would not be hard to replicate on your own. Of course, maybe not so directional, and in rows, you could definitely do something similar, free motion. And then for the Nova quilt, we used another similar print or pattern called Benet's Splashing, also by Urban Elements. This one has more loops, a little bit more traditional than the herringbone, of course, but still with a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a modern twist, not typical feathers, very irregular, and I really loved the effect that this one did. So let's finally take a look at the additional fabrics that we have available from the line, and then also all the coordinates we used in the quilts. Starting off with some of the backgrounds I used, the dry brush in the whipped cream. We have available in both 1 yards and 3 yards. We have the canvas French vanilla, also 1 yards and 3 yards. And so is the spotted steel in 1 yards and 3 yards. Great for backgrounds. We used all three. Then we have from the line, we have the main floral in the navy, available in 1 yards and 3 yards. We have the Dreams Chartreuse in 1 yards as our basic. We have the main floral in the powder color in 1 yards and 3 yards. And so are the leaves cream, both in 1 yards and 3 yards. We have the grass cloth cottons available in 1 yards, which we used for a lot of bindings. We also have the leaves olive in 1 yards, and the Geo plaid navy also in 1 yards. So these were in the bundle, and then we have them also available in 1 yards. Now I hope you enjoyed this month's shipment of Goodies Bundle Club just as much as I loved putting it all together for you. Now remember, if you're planning on using any of those additional fabrics for a quilt, snatch them up early because they do tend to disappear and we sometimes cannot get additional fabrics from a collection. Now, of course, if Goodies Bundle Club is something absolutely new to you, make sure you check it out. We do have some spots open in our subscription, and it's a great one because you get this wonderful fabric for a great price every 3 months that I've procured specifically for you. It's exclusive and lots of ideas for you to go by to use those up. At least you get to see the actual fabrics, how they look in a quilt, which is a beautiful thing. Every month we have a great coupon, so those of you subscribers, make sure you use it going forward. But that is it for us and April 2024 Bundle Club. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. This is our bundle club for April. I'm so excited to see all your comments, how much you love it. I absolutely love it too. I love Sandy. I've been a fan of hers for decades. I bought her fabric back in the 90s, I swear. I don't know when she started, but I was one of the first. Love it, love it. And this particular fabric line, of course, had other colors in it, but I chose to narrow in on just those blues and greens because I just love the effect of them together. Those are the quilts behind me. I have Venus in the middle. I have Billy, of course, on my right, and then Ingrid on the other side. So just love how they turned out. And then I have one more Nova she got left back in Florida, but got to spread the love. So any questions you have about Bundle Club, you can join the club now. So if you join now, we do have some spots open. They are limited, of course, as they always are. You will get this bundle as your first shipment. So for a limited time, we have just X amount. So while we have spots, you will get this one shipped to you. And I saw a question pop up. Is this bundle available outside of Bundle Club? It is not at this time. It is only if we don't sell out throughout until the last month before our next one gets delivered. Then we may have some extras, but there's always a chance that there's not. Did you say you made all 4 quilts with the bundle? This is my first Bundle Club. I had FOMO and I had to join. No, not all 4. However, because I added background to both Nova and Venus, you could have made Nova, Venus, and Ingrid from one bundle, which is pretty amazing. So Billy, Nova, and Venus are all made with 10-inch squares. But since we added background to the Nova and Venus, you only needed 24 squares. So you could do both of those and then the Ingrid. So you could do either Billy and Ingrid or Nova and Venus and Ingrid. So it's just really fun to play with that way from a half-yard bundle. So it's a beautiful thing. Any other questions? Yeah, that's a great use of fabric, and of course our subscription price for the Bundle Club is lower than what we are seeing now for bundles. Fabrics are still going up in price, unfortunately, but we are keeping this capped at this price. Do you usually sew borders? No, so some of my patterns have borders and many of them don't, so I usually just, it's a visual for me. Sometimes I feel the design needs a border. Sometimes I feel it does not, but it's always an option. You can always add borders to anything you're doing. So it's really just a personal preference sometimes. So leaving a quilt without borders and having the pattern go all the way out to the edge sometimes gives it a little bit of a different feel. If the pattern is more traditional, sometimes it feels like it needs a border, but it just goes both ways for me. All right, I realized I forgot to show you guys. Somebody asked about this from our tip of the day, the towel, the hanging towel. We have 6 new toweling colors that just came in, so I just wanted to show you real quick because I have them all here laid out on my table. So these are the 6 colors that just came in, and let me tell you the color names. So this is this one is called white gray, and then we have the gray, and then we have the white black, even though it's really just charcoal gray. We have the black, and then we have the white red, this one, and then this one is called a red white. So these would be really cute for Christmas and Christmas top. And then this will be really cute for Halloween. So I'm definitely going to be making some. All right, we have some great new fabrics too. Speaking of Halloween, we have a glow-in-the-dark bundle. So this one is by Robert Kaufman, and it's called Lights Out. Yes, a reminder, you need to put the lights out. So everything in the bundle that you will see that is white, like all of these ghosts, are going to be glow in the dark. And I love the colors of this bundle because it's unique. We have just white and purple, and then grays and blacks. And then the orange is just an accent, and I love that. So then we have the skeletons, bats and cats skeletons. So fun. So the actual bones are going to glow in the dark, not the background, but there are some little skulls and bones and crossbones on here that will also glow. And this is a really fun print. This kind of a collage with witches' hats, pumpkins, ghosts, and all these things. So there is some glow-in-the-dark elements around this. Then we go into the purples. We have the little caskets with the skulls. We have some ghosts and crows. And then we just got to have some skeletons doing yoga, looks like. Yes. I got to turn this around. This is fun.
That's cute.
All kinds of yoga poses. That's really fun. And then we have some spider web, purple and the white. So the white is going to glow. Going into some of our black prints, we have the cat skeletons. And then we have this print that is black cats, but the eyes are going to glow in the dark. So there's just eyes everywhere, and then here's the little face. We have the yoga skeletons in the black. And the caskets again with the skulls. And then finally the same print, the gray with the ghosts and the crows. So really, really a fun line and be super fun to play with. So for my fabric pull, I have some black dimples in the charcoal and then a more charcoal because there's a lot of gray in this. This is canvas and the ebony. It's a perfect match here. For some of the medium grays, I chose the alchemy and the smolder. So it has a lot of texture and a lot of different variety of the gray. And also the chalk and charcoal in the charcoal color. So it has more of a texture. For the purples, Dreams in the purple is a great fit. And also the glaze in the royal color. Love this color. Beautiful. And for the white, canvas whitewash. And then we have a white spatter texture, which is kind of a white on white spatter. You want to go pretty white with the glow in the dark. And then I pulled two oranges that would be great for a focus or an accent. The crack shadow in the carnelian, and then also the color wash in the scratch orange. It's a great little accent. So this is Lights Out by Robert Kaufman Fabrics. Very fun for kids, of course. Making glow-in-the-dark pillowcases would be fun. Glow-in-the-dark treat bags or a quilt. I made Johan a glow-in-the-dark quilt that he has on his bed when he stays at our house, and he loves it. It's really fun. Bedtime becomes fun. All right, I have another one for you, completely different, also seasonal. This one is called Winter Stone, and just a hint of metallic, a little almost like a pearlescence too, but this is by Robert Kaufman as well, and I just love this. So very wintry, so we have mostly silver in here, and then just subtle. And then we have that really beautiful sage green and bluish grays in here. It's light blues, so it's just beautiful pine cones. Then we have the stars. It's just so well done. And I love that it's not too much metallic, just a little bit of sparkle, just enough. We have the large pine cones. This would make such a nice soft quilt. It reminds me of the fabrics I used for one of my Christmas projects for Fast and Furious Club. The Twinkle Time topper, tree skirt, beautiful crackle texture. And then you'll see more of this sage green or mint green almost. Beautiful color. I love it with the silver. A nice geometric print with the green in it. And then we have the crackle texture. So pretty. And then the pine cones in the green. So there's 12 pieces in this bundle. So it's kind of split evenly between the lights and the darks. So this one would be considered a light, but it kind of bridges that. Has the green and then it has the blues in there as well. So here you'll see more of that grayish blue. Really pretty with the pine cones and spruce. We have the crackle in the blue tone. And then finally the darkest print is going to be this one with the gray background with the green and the blue pine cones both in there. Really, really beautiful. Just love this. So subtle, but will make a gorgeous, gorgeous things for the winter season. So for some of the colors that I chose to go with it, we'll start with the blue end here. The grunge and the harbor color is perfect for that one. Going to be a little bit on the darker side, but just gives that same feel. And so does the grunge in the medium gray, has a lot of blue to it. We have glaze in the storm cloud. And also a light gray mix in the smoke color. So they all have that little bit of bluish hue to them. For that mint green, I chose the grunge in the sea crest. That's a lot of mint, but it really would pull out all of these colors. For a more subtle, the seedling in the sage works really nicely. It tones nicely with this color here. And then we have crimp in the sand. So this one has a little bit of a green to it, but very subtle. Some silver ones. We have chroma in the frost. This was a color club, and so was fusion silver. Works really nicely. Also a Robert Kaufman. And then, of course, since this is winter, crackle in the snow color is going to work really, really well together with all of those. So this is Winterstone, Robert Kaufman. Beautiful line. So this is our show for today. Of course, we are on a Monday, so Colleen will be here in a couple of days on Wednesday morning, 9:30, with a great deal of the day with One Yard Wednesday. And then we will be back this Friday live from the show in Chicago from H&H, 12 o'clock. But let's finish with our giveaway question. We talked a lot about curated bundles with our bundle club because that's always curated by me, and it's something that you can't get anywhere else because I always add something else to the bundles from other lines. So my question to you is, because I know this goes both ways, do you like picking fabrics or prefer curated kits and bundles? I'd love to hear this because I absolutely love putting together fabrics and colors for a quilt, but I know that so many of you struggle with that or just don't enjoy that process. You do love quilting, but that's just not a part of it, what you enjoy. And that's what I love about us quilters. We're all so different. So tell me what you prefer and what you have fun with when it comes to picking fabrics. So like I said, our next show will be Friday. That is May 3rd at 12 p.m. Central Time. And then next Tipsy Tuesday will be on a Tuesday. That's going to be May 7th. We're already in May, 4 p.m. Central Time, live from Studio B. But this is our show today. Thank you all for watching. Have a great, great rest of your week. And maybe we'll show you some glimpses from our Chicago show. Bye, everybody.